It brought me full circle to why we created ASAP so many years ago on a napkin in a dingy bar in Boulder. It's because ASAP is about people. It's about the connective tissue that exists between each of our work, even when that work feels disparate. ASAP is like a home to me. It's a place I can always go to find my grounding, to grow, to learn, to find members of one of my professional communities. I come to ASAP to learn, be inspired, and sometimes to help inspire. So if, like me, you find yourself a bit drained, I thought I'd start my remarks by sharing some good things that have happened in 2020. And yes, there are some good things for all awardees and nominees. So what I did is trolled the belly of the internet to find some things to kind of bring some levity, but also some grounding to the conversation and where I hope that we head. So let me start there. Here are the top 10 things I found that make me hopeful that have happened in 2020. Number one, some institutions have found ways of changing their production to meet the needs of their communities. For example, distilleries, both small and large around the country, have used their resources to produce badly needed hand sanitizer. My local distillery did this and then handed out the hand sanitizer for free to small local businesses. This showed me that when needed, our institutions can rise up to meet the needs of our community, and that good institutions contribute to their community, they don't extract from it. Number two, by and large, the majority of us stayed at home, practiced social distancing, wore masks, washed our hands, and practiced other good hygiene in order to keep ourselves, our families, our loved ones, and our community, including those we do not know, safe. That gives me hope that despite quarantine fatigue, which I know we all feel, when pressed, we really can step up to care for each other. Three, did you know that Crayola launched a box of crayons with diverse skin colors to help children, in their words, accurately color themselves into the world? It's a small act, but one that I hope speaks to a larger cultural shift where conversations about race, racism, supremacy culture, colonialism, and liberation can start to happen not just in small groups or passively on the box of crayons, but at dinner tables, in boardrooms, in government buildings, and in and across all levels of decision-making. Number four, some of us learn that teachers are deeply undervalued. Sure, we may know this, but 2020 taught us just how true this statement is. Friends, if like me, you're homeschooling, it is hard, and it is not equitable. And our education system sure ain't equitable either. If we care about our present, let alone our future, we need to be investing in our teachers, especially our early education teachers. Maybe this will help us treat them like the rock stars, or more appropriately, the rocks of our society that they really are. Number five, Americans love their pets. During the pandemic, we rushed to adopt and foster pets on an unprecedented level. Those cuddly companions are helping us control our blood pressure. They're forcing some of us to exercise more than we normally would, and they're bringing more joy than we can imagine to our lives. To me, this speaks to the importance of connection. When we were forced to quarantine and many of us lost opportunities for physically connecting with our friends, neighbors, and other loved ones, we turned to our pets, both new and old, to help us find that connection. It reminds me that connection and physicality matter, that we are deeply social beings, and we find ways to connect, including through Zoom conference calls, because connections matter and they define us. And maybe the pandemic will help us recenter the importance of relationships and connections in our life. Number six, we learned that the great outdoors is open for business and provides immeasurable value and comfort. I honestly don't think I could have survived the pandemic without frequent walks, paddles, hikes, or simply outside Zoom meetings. I learned very early that the outdoors was my reset button, if you will. It was and remains the place that grounds me in the work that I do and in this world. Maybe, just maybe, some of you had a similar revelation, and this could lead to rejuvenation of our efforts to protect natural systems. Maybe we'll find ourselves spending more time outdoors and being more connected to our environment as opposed to our devices. Maybe this will make us healthier and happier, and maybe we'll get to a place where all people can equally enjoy access to the great outdoors and the benefits this provides. Number seven, books like Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility and Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist topped USA Today's best-selling book list for weeks. I'm guilty of contributing to that statistic as I finally bought copies of the books so I could continue to reference them in my personal quest to become an ally. And at the city, we held book clubs on both of these books to deepen our institutional practice around equity, diversity, and inclusion. Maybe the fact that these books hit bestseller lists is a sign that, as a society, we are finally hearing the long-raised voices of our Black, Brown, and Indigenous neighbors, friends, and family about the structural, institutional, procedural, and cultural inequalities and racism that exist. Maybe we are finally starting to become awake so we can next become woke and move on to doing the work of dismantling these systems of oppression. On that point, number 8, many of us learned about the deep intersectionality of climate change, racial inequality, and COVID-19. Stealing from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network's equity principles, maybe we are learning that the root causes of climate change, environmental justice, injustice, and racial inequality are the same, and are systemic outcomes of an exploitive extraction of natural and human resources to generate profit for a few. And if this is true, then perhaps we can acknowledge that successful solutions must address these common causes if they're to succeed. Maybe, just maybe, we are on the cusp of forming alliances with groups that once felt disjointed, but now seem so obviously connected. And maybe, just maybe, our movements will finally align, and by joining forces, we will be so powerful that the counter winds can no longer hold us back. Number 9, telemedicine is actually taking off and working largely. Not only is this a necessity from a safety standpoint, but it's literally bringing medical and mental health services, which is a brewing crisis, to rural and underserved areas across the US. This has the potential to drastically improve the lives of countless people who are often left out of our traditional medical system. Number 10, finally, we learned that caregiving is deeply undervalued in our society. Whether that is caring for our elders or caring for our youth, we don't clearly value care enough. And as adaptation professionals, you are another type of caregiver. You are caring for our world, for our people, for our communities, and for our future. You are more important now than ever, and the care you provide needs to be nurtured, recognized, and honored. Thank you. So building on the need to nurture, recognize, and honor the work of our caregivers, I'd like to briefly transition to naming some of the extraordinary work ASAP members are doing that inspire me. I'm not going to talk about the Rala folks who I was going to speak about, but I think we've just learned a lot about what they are doing and the inspiration they provide. But I'd like to elevate 4 ASAP members that I think might be on the line with us today. First, let me tell you about Dr. Jennifer Gerard. She's the Chief Resilience Officer and Director of Environmental Planning and Community Resilience Division in Broward County, Florida. Jennifer is amazing and works tirelessly with the entire community to advance local and regional resilience. Over the last several years, Broward County has made numerous investments in infrastructure to help address flooding. And this year, despite horrific high tide events, those investments are paying off. The county is now looking to develop stories, photography, drone footage, and other interactive ways to show people why investing in resilience really matters. The county is also updating their future conditions map, including, I believe, at a public engagement meeting that'll be happening later this week or possibly today. And the point is to help ensure the community is preparing for future changes in climate, not current or historic changes. And the county is working on a resilience dashboard to help tie everything together in a way that is accessible and understandable to the public. Jennifer is a technical expert that is doing the work to make her community safer, healthier, and more resilient. Thank you, Jennifer, for being a source of inspiration to me. Second, let me elevate Shamika Hansen. Shamika is a community protection specialist at the Nature Conservancy, where she works to help communities explore managed retreat through equitable adaptation and land protection. In addition to this critical work, Shamika also speaks to and has helped mentor other people of color into the conservation field, a field that is dominated by white institutions. Shamika is also a member of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Working Group at ASAP, where she has been helping the organization center equity. Shamika is a star that burns bright. You may not see her front and center in a lot of the work, but she's there. Her commitment and passion to making people, communities, and institutions more resilient and just is making all of us better. Thank you, Shamika. You inspire me. Third, let me introduce you to Galen Hardy. You may have met Galen yesterday. He's a community engagement specialist in the Ann Arbor Office of Sustainability and Innovations. A former Marine, Galen is a passionate believer in ensuring that underrepresented individuals are fully integrated into city programs. He constantly tells us that he knows no stranger, that his job is to find ways to make the system work for those who are often left out, behind, or forgotten. He created and is about to launch an ambassadors program to bring people passionate about sustainability into our organization's work. And that work centers around creating a just transition to community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030. He organizes our office's community service efforts. He sings the praises of those around him. He works with local institutions to ensure the resilience of people is constantly front of mind. And he is a true leader in both word and deed. Galen is one of those people who bring joy to all those he interacts with. He makes you better. And because you know him, your work is awesome. Galen is making sure that people are at the center of our work and that we never lose sight of this grounding. Thank you, Galen, for sharing your passion with us. And finally, let me introduce you to our very own Beth Gibbons. Yes, we might all know Beth Gibbons as the executive director of ASAP, and she's great in this role. But did you also know that Beth works tirelessly in her local and regional community to advance sustainability commission? She's organizing the technology for virtual school in her community. She's active in pushing for a dam to be removed and natural habitat to be restored. And she's a community organizer, helping ensure people's voices are heard in democracy. Beth cares deeply about our shared work, both across the nation and within our individual communities, especially within her community. Beth is a friend, a colleague, a collaborator, and an inspiration. Thank you, Beth, for the work that you do for this organization, for the field, and for being the person you are. These are just 4 of the hundreds of individuals in the ASAP community that inspire me and that have inspired me just this year. To all of you out there doing this work, let me say thank you. You are seen, you are appreciated, you are valued, and you are helping me keep going. Thank you. And now finally, if you will bear with me, I'd like to close out my remarks by briefly sharing what I hope the future holds for ASAP. These thoughts have actually been the hardest for me to articulate, so thank you for hearing them and for working with me to refine them so we can collectively build the organization we all need. Excuse me. I tried to ground these remarks in the larger context of the transformation that the world is going to need to undergo the essential goal of achieving a more just, sustainable, and resilient world. First, I hope that ASAP continues to solidify itself as the home for adaptation practitioners. I want the world to know that if you work on adaptation or resilience building, ASAP is your home base. It's where you can come to share your stories, to learn from your peers, to network, to be fed and nurtured on your professional journey. I hope you come to ASAP to meet and make friends, and that those friendships, which may start because of your shared interest in adaptation, grow because of your shared commitment to humanity and to each other. And as ASAP firmly establishes itself as the home for adaptation practitioners, I hope that it builds strong bonds with other professional organizations to ensure that everyone, regardless of their professional identity, knows about and practices resilience building. And that ASAP is the connective tissue in all of this work. Second, I hope that we all realize that adaptation, mitigation, and equity are intrinsically linked, and that separating them is a luxury we no longer have. That if we are going to tackle adaptation, we need to start with addressing historical and systemic racism. That if we are going to focus on mitigation, we need to ground solutions in targeted universalism. While we may continue to define ourselves by labels such as adaptation practitioner, sustainability director, natural resource manager, resilience officer, etc., I believe it's all of our jobs to work to dismantle systems of oppression and to seek solutions that mitigate and help society adapt to climate change. We simply don't have time to do anything else. Third, I hope our field becomes far more diverse. I hope that one day we have a governing board that is all female, all Black, all Indigenous, and I don't hope that so we can simply check a box. I hope that because we've done the work as professionals and mentors to make sure that everyone, regardless of the color of their skin, their background, their zip code, everyone has a real opportunity to join this movement. And perhaps that's more selfish than I want to admit. Right now, we are leaving people and their great ideas, passion, creativity, we're leaving them on the sidelines. If we are going to rise to the challenge of our time, climate change, dismantling oppression, combating economic and racial inequality, then we need everyone off the bench and in the game. And lastly, I'm going to steal from a project we are working on in Ann Arbor called I Have a Vision. I have a vision that our society is powered with 100% renewable energy. I have a vision that we value our community more than our capital. I have a vision of a world where clean air, clean water, healthy soils, a high quality education, and a good paying job that provides dignity are human rights. I have a vision for a world in which the color of your skin or your zip code no longer correlates to health outcomes or life expectancy. I have a vision for a world where polar bears, Amur tigers, the pangolin, African rhinoceroses, gorillas, the slow loris, the leopard, great whites, the vaquita, and so many other species not only exist but thrive because we've recognized and value the interdependencies in our world. I have a vision for a world that no longer needs me because we finally understood that the extraction-based economy doesn't work for the majority. So in the end, I'm working for a world that I can be proud to leave to my child and the next 7 generations. Because as the saying goes, we have no planet B. In closing, we are living in truly exceptional times. For years, people will talk about where they were during the COVID-19 pandemic. We will reflect on this moment with either pride for what we learned, dismay for what we didn't, or some combination of both. And in addition to the pandemic, we must elevate another truth. We literally are the first generation to fully understand the ramifications of climate change. And we are the last generation to do anything about it. We control the future. Our choices will resonate for decades, if not centuries. The work you do has never been more critical. I have a vision of wild because of all of you and because of ASAP. Thank you.